Welcome, beautiful souls, back to Unfiltered Soul-Shifts. Today, we are discussing integration and wholeness. How do we fix the trauma, like the habits, the patterns? Yes, it's all about fixing all of these things, but what if healing was never about fixing it at all, right? What if the process is really just in allowing all parts of you to exist without being ostracized, managed, or corrected? Surely we are whole as we are. I say it like that, but it really is a question, right? Like what is fully integrated for anyone? So it is something I've been playing around with. It's been mulling through, and I actually ended up writing a piece which really just speaks to what part makes me whole, right? And ultimately, after doing that soul dump, I'll call it, for me, my answer was like just saying, you know what? It's not about bypassing, it's not always about positive thinking. It's allowing and accepting every version of myself, my past versions, the wounds, the strengths, the contradictions, the desires to coexist. Because ultimately, it's in accepting all of these versions, my next self is waiting for me, right? And by accepting all of these versions and knowing, right, I'm no longer there, let me move on, I can activate my next self. I can move on to that level. And once we've moved onto that level, it's like, sure, I could have been doing this all along. You know, this is where I've needed to be all along because it's a good space. So healing doesn't erase parts of you. It reclaims them. You know, it's not perfection. It's permission to exist in every form. Now we struggle with integration. We struggle to just embody because we're conditioned to optimize instead of embody. We Our nervous system prefers certainty over truth because sometimes it's that truth that essentially challenges us and makes us grow. The nervous system perceives the certainty as the safe space, and we're taught to identify with that version of ourself at a time, that one version of yourself at a time. We're not taught to identify with the writer, with the speaker, with the teacher, with the spiritualist, with the joker, all in one go. And for me, part of growth is identifying with all of them. It's like I mentioned, it's coexisting, it's claiming all these versions of myself. So the healed versus the broken, strong versus vulnerable, spiritual versus human. Integration says you can be all of it. Now, yes, fine, we integrate. But at what point do we start transforming? I know sometimes transformation can feel dramatic. Maybe we play it up in our minds. And most people say, yes, transformation does feel dramatic. Integration, however, feels subtle. Transformation is rather the insight, right? It's what you delve in. It's like, oh, light bulb moments. That's the transformation. Integration is repetition of those moments. True healing really just shows up in how you respond when you're triggered, how quickly you return to your center, and how gently you treat yourself on those hard days, on the days that you get it wrong. Remember, you were whole before all of these stories. You were whole before all of the stories told you otherwise and you believed it. Healing isn't about becoming someone new, it's about coming home, reclaiming those parts, being okay with those parts, and being able to grow from those parts. And the body does integrate faster than the mind, which is why the rituals matter. I actually came across, I didn't read the article, I need to go back and read it, but the article, the headline was why, something along the lines of, and now I'm paraphrasing, right? But something of therapy heals the emotions, but movement allows the body to forget faster than the mind does. And I was like, sure. I read it again and I was like, oh, I actually need to, like I'm saying, I need to go back and actually read that article. So I can't even tell you what it's about, but if I just look at that headline, how true it is though. I don't know. No, I can say from personal experience that yes, movement does help you forget, but it's not forgetting the act or what happened, right? It's not erasing the memory, but it's erasing the feeling. That's exactly what somatic healing is, right? All of the movement, which allows you to move and heal certain parts of your body where you are holding certain emotions and then you're freeing it. And sometimes that freedom comes out in tears or pain, just, moving out of your body. So I can say yes to that the body does integrate quick. But that's also where rituals meet at halfway. It's that repetition of the ritual, allowing yourself to feel space, reminding yourself that, oh, I'm calm. This makes me feel joy. This brings me joy. Now, as always, it's easier said than done. You know, we could be integrating and it might not even feel like it. Simple signs, I would say, that you are integrating is you pausing instead of reacting, feeling less urgency to explain yourself. Another one, you stop abandoning yourself just to keep the peace. And you allow complexity without needing resolution. I had a conversation not so long ago that, now that I think of it, it probably embodies this exact thing of me integrating, but it just, I don't feel like it. And literally, I have those moments. I think we all do. Where on a path, yes, sometimes we question it, but sometimes it just doesn't feel like it, right? It doesn't feel like you've grown. It doesn't feel like you're on the right path. And this is besides the outside noise. This is personal. It doesn't feel like it. But in this conversation, okay, conversation to two or more people, right? It was a hard one. It required touching base on some feelings, some of which I'd already unpacked and had already been doubting with. But the other person in this conversation also remembering we are all on different paths, we all heal and deal differently. They were going through their version of their unpacking, right? Me coming from where I come from, I know what I've just mentioned. So it's easier for me to respect that. So even if I respect it and I understand it, it doesn't always mean that I don't always react. Did I pause and not react in this context? Yes, I did. Okay. So great. I didn't overreact. I pause and I let the person be, which for me is creating a safe space. I needed that space. So I was hoping I was creating the same for this person. But anyway, the conversation on the whole was needed. It was healthy for this specific dynamic. Okay. which in itself has been built on a lot of trauma. But because, again, where I am at, the ultimate asks was not always aligned. Did it feel right to do what I was doing at the moment, the pausing and reacting? Not necessarily. And I'm going to say no. It's a no gray area. Why? Because I was feeling slightly attached as the person, as much as the person was unpacking in their way, they weren't taking full accountability or responsibility. Now, remember, it's not my job to make them to do that, to force them to do that. However, I don't have to take it on for them. Right? I needed also to pull myself just slightly back to say, I don't have to take this on for you. This is your journey. Now, saying it here, real friendship and connection doesn't force changes. It doesn't require the finger pointing and you as an individual, you need to change. Fundamental changes of people to work shouldn't be and are not required for real friendship and connection. And if it does, then it's not a healthy connection, because ultimately it's asking you to be less of you. Yes, we all make our own choices and our own compromises, right? And we've got to own that. Now, again, mentioning this is my dynamic, and in this dynamic, that was the ask, being less of who I am, being less of this person that I am learning to love again. So I know that's part of my healing and growth. But part of that healing and growth is also realizing situations as this and learning how to accept myself as I am and saying no, because minimizing myself leads to a spiral of less authenticity for me. It leads to a spiral of less joy, less grounding, overthinking. And then I'll find myself right back where I started. So I had to choose not to abandon myself and to keep the peace or to just agree. I had to remember that I am not the trauma and where I am now matters, and that we will never align if the default always has to be that trauma sort of dynamic. Now, at that moment, it didn't feel like growth. It didn't feel like wholeness. It didn't feel like I was integrating anything. But I stuck to my knowing and my insight that I had gained, and my body was reacting to the differences, like the differences in reality and the differences to where I'm actually at. I felt that. So I allowed that part of me to feel it and to be there and not be pushed down because it was real. But it also reminded me that that feeling I was feeling, I need to unpack it. So yes, I can speak about it because I unpacked it. I had to realize that this is why it didn't feel so great. I acted how I needed to, or what was aligned with where I'm at in my growth at the moment, but it didn't feel great. Now, why didn't it feel great? So I needed to unpack that conversation. But I suppose what I'm getting to, and might have just been a long winded flow, but ultimately, it doesn't always have to feel like you're integrating. Just remember, it's not stagnation. This is what embodiment is. So as we close, just remember, nothing in you is too much, too late, even too broken to belong. Integration is simply the moment you stop leaving all of these parts of yourself behind. So do one thing without making it productive, healing, or meaningful, and let that be enough. Remember to be compassionate to yourself and identify what that self compassionate and self improvement looks like to you. Until next time, beautiful souls, wholeness begins when you stop exiling parts of yourself.